Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. I'm Rough Enough.
I'm Jeremy Duvall.
And I'm Matt Croger. Welcome to our first fireside of the year. Oh, we've been pretty busy, haven't we, chaps? You know, Rob has actually been working at a job, a real life job for once.
I know, it's shocking. He's not recording and working. He's actually doing real jobs and stuff.
I know he's hard to get a hold of. You know, it's just
what's happening?
I've never been in this world before.
To be fair, my wife says it's karma, right? Because my previous role at this company was more laid back, more self-directed. It was all remote. This one is you are supporting the production floor with a team of people. And so it's a different animal. So I'm in at least 4 days a week. For those that haven't been following the news, the United States got hit with a pretty nasty storm. In Memphis, you know, it's been in the teens. It's snowed. It's icy. So basically, my daughter hasn't been in school for 5 days. Hopefully they'll go back Monday because at some point, you know, they allocate so many snow days per year. But if they use them all up, she's going to have to extend the year into you know, maybe even into June. So,
well, that's not going to be very nice.
Probably a lot, like maybe 8 days. We're not out of the storms yet, right? Like, I mean, we're only in January. So, and this nasty weather can go into March. The summary here, Matt, is yes, I am working my ass off, just not on the podcast, unfortunately.
You've been working, and I haven't done a single solid day's work yet this year.
Usually the one like, oh, I'm working a dog, and I'm like, well, I'm working from home today, and I got my feet kicked up, right? And it's the role, you're on vacation. Well, to be fair, you have a life of leisure.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, well, it's funny. You sent that snow picture over, and I said, well, you're sending this, you know, your car snowed in, and we were 42 degrees Celsius or 107 Fahrenheit, you know, on the same day.
It's funny. I fly to California tomorrow for a work trip for the week. And the guy that's going with me on my team, I said, hey, bring shorts. It's 80 degrees. We're going from like, I think it's 16 degrees outside right now to 80. So it'll be quite the juxtaposition. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
And how have we been? What about you, J-Dog? What have you been up to?
Same thing, you know, pretty busy getting to the flow of the new year. You know, the kids are all in activities. So that's pretty busy, baseball and cheerleading. So driving around, taking care of that. Work is also pretty busy, but having, you know, we'll talk about it in the hobby updates, but just having a bunch of fun with my new 3D printer. That's been one of my main things I've been having a lot of fun with, but can't complain. Everything's been going good.
Awesome. Well, why don't we roll into our community update? And so we've had plenty going on. I guess that's the difference when you know, in different seasons, isn't it? You know, hard to have much of a community update if you're in the depths of winter, Rob.
100%.
Yeah, but we've finished up with Clash of Kings Australia. Plenty of prep. To be honest, I couldn't have been working, I think, with all the stuff I needed to punch out for that beforehand when you're printing token packs for 60 token packs and all of that. I had a bit of a disaster where I'd ordered these bread and pencil cases for putting all the token packs in, and then a week before I realised I'd done it really organised 6 months previously, and then I went to get them out and put some in, and I was like, oh, because I was 6 months ago, I ordered 2025, not 2026. And so,
but did you at least order the right size? So the 40 millimeter? Okay, all right. I was expecting you to say that the tokens wouldn't fit.
Yeah, no. So I got it in and thankfully managed to get a rush order done in time. So, and that was that. But man, we had such a good such a good time with Ronnie visiting. Timed well with my 40th birthday, so we had a big night out on the.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thanks, mate. Had a big night out on the Friday night with plenty of good Australian wine that was supplied by our good friend Tony's estate. His new thing is buying cellars from deceased estates. So we get plenty of good wine on the cheap, and some of it you can't resell, but if we'd attempted to resell, I think we'd be talking in the thousands of what went down that night. It was a very enjoyable night. And then, like, community-wise, it's like the Clash of Kings just rolls on into a big vibe of heaps of tournaments in Australia in the first 6 months. We had a tournament in Sydney, which has been a bit of a dead zone. Kakwa launched a one-day event and sold his 20 places out in 2 hours. So, there is a vibe going on for Fourth at the moment. Luke Schaefer's coming up with an app to support the slow grow and other slow grows. Plenty of people working on different scorings. It's just there's heaps going round. What about you, Jeremy?
As you know, like fall for us is a little bit slower, but there is lots of Adepticon talk. So talking about who's going to Adepticon. I know we have one of our players, Danny, is going to go to Blue City Brawl. So I think he was looking for a teammate to do that, which will be, he's definitely got, he travels around with Blake, resident toilet Elvis, don't die on the toilet, Blake, as Rob would say. Danny's really got the bug for competitive kings. So he's going to head to
Blue City Brawl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Into Rob's neck of the woods, which is pretty good. Thinking about Adepticon, I'm gonna borrow Adam Ballard's Night Stalkers for Clash, since I don't have an army set for Fourth, and I want to be starting to focus some of my King's energy into the Slow Grow League that you heard about on our episode with Alex. So we'll talk a little bit about today. I've been thinking about and researching what I want to do for that. So then that way, it's always nice to know for Adepticon, I don't have to worry about flying with an army. I know I have one ready. So just kind of getting excited about Adepticon. Riddle of Steel is coming up here, President's Day weekend. It's got Holcomb's House, which is going to be sort of our first Fourth tournament. We have some people coming in from Texas for that, which should be interesting. The more reasonable Texians. So I think Mark Cox and Ryan Smith are heading in for that. So that's like our first sort of bigger. I say bigger. It's smaller, 20-ish players, but it usually will have a nice variety of good players.
Those two reasonable Texians are both talking about the potential for Clash next year in Australia again.
Yeah, they do a lot of travel. They went to UK Clash one year. The Coxes and Jeff back when he was playing King still. So, So I think my sense is outside of some of the weird rules interactions that people know, okay, this is not what the rule is meant. If you really ask yourself, okay, this is a weird whatever, cleared up in the fact. I think most people are pretty happy with the rules of Fourth in my neck of the woods. They like it. They like the new edition. There's probably some balance stuff. I mean, during the playtesting, right, most of the work was done on the new rules. Not that they didn't playtest army balance and everything, but so it's a whole new rule set. So there's got to be stuff that needs to be fixed and stuff like that. But I think in general, the vibe is really good here too around Fourth. It's just getting through wintertime is stuff. And especially since our group is kind of in Reno and then in more towards the coast, and to get to Reno from the coast, you got to drive through the hills, which in the wintertime is snow and very difficult to travel through the Sierras. So kind of right now our two groups are somewhat disconnected by nature, but once we get into spring, that will get better. So so Riddle of Steel's coming up, and then we'll be into Adepticon, and then we'll be heading into April Fools, which is another event in Reno, which is the first event of the Jackalopes, which they're now holding their events at the facility at the college, University of Reno. Nick is a professor there. So in the facility that houses their giant swim complex, they have a physical therapy classroom that's huge. And on it, they have lots of these like massage type tables for physical therapy stuff that they put the 6x4 boards on top of. So it's like set up to be a really nice venue for Kings events. So they'll have their spring event coming up. So so slow right now as we get through winter, but lots of stuff once we get into, later in the February and into March. But what about you, Rob?
I think it's a lot like what you just said. It's we're all kind of feeling out Fourth and waiting for things to drop and maybe some facts to come out to maybe correct some obvious issues. Locally, we have a one-day event coming up here in February, so we will be playing our first local event for 4th edition. And really, we need to get that discussion going locally about it's time for that reboot. The run up to 4th edition sort of killed the momentum a little bit, right? Everybody's like, well, let's just wait and see what happens with 4th, right? And so there wasn't a lot of new armies or not a lot of engagement. And so I expect now we're in a better position. And, the Southeast has already had at least one event, plenty of events coming down the pipe. But, it's one of those things where we're in a holding pattern. I think now just waiting for the doors to open and bust forth. But let's jump into the hobby updates. I'll start Hobby Challenge with Mantic. We'll be starting in February. I am committing to a halfling army. My hobby as of right now has been pulling out boxes and starting to prepare models. I have some guys on my team that are really smart, right? They know how to repair like big pieces of equipment. And we have not been able to find someone that can repair my airbrush compressor. And it's a $300 compressor. So I'm like, but I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and just buy a new one. So it's unfortunate, but that right there was probably the number one reason why I really haven't had any real progress hobby-wise in the last 6 months, because I haven't had an airbrush. So hopefully that breaks free. But, I'm ready for the slow grow. I think it's a perfect time. It starts in February. It'll run through July. It'll be at 2,000 points, roughly broken down into 4 blocks, and each block they're going to be looking to have about 500 points. I'm going to start by just putting some models together that I think I liked. It looked like one of the goals for this army would be something that could be travelable. I could put it on an airplane and stuff, and chunky boys. Like, I would never take my goblins. Never, because they would all bust, right? I mean, they bust just be picking them up out of a battle foam case and putting them on the table. So, I'm looking for more travel resistant models selection. Yeah, so I'm looking at more like trolls and harvesters and big, thick, chunky boys. But I do got to have How to Train Your Dracon and the fat Dracon in a wheelbarrow. I got to have that. Like, those are like...
I've just done my order for Equal Opportunity Dragon. Yep. I can't wait. I can't wait to get those.
I'm super excited about it. So this army is going to start with the idea of the season. So I'm going to go fall. And Jeremy, we talked a little bit about that with Alex. It's cool when you have a fall, you can make, if you put it closer to winter, you can pull in some snow elements, or if you put it closer to summer, you can put in some summer elements. I'll probably go later in the fall, and it's just some ideas that are floating around, maybe like an apple orchard, like that they're harvesting apples. I don't necessarily haven't defined exactly what I want, but I know what I don't want. I don't really want a farm. I don't really want like a bunch of guys sitting around, fat halflings sitting around a table having a feast, right? I want something that's a little bit different. So we'll see. I've got to think about how, if that's the theme I end up with, it's like, how do I model that?
You could pile up some apples on top of a battle pig.
Oh, well, you probably don't know this, but pigs, you feed them in like a trough, right? You could put a big giant trough full of apples and oh, that would be funny. That'd be funny. But I'm excited. More to come. This is going to officially start in February. You are listening to this in February, so I've already started by the time you're listening to this building models and stuff. So why halflings? Because they're in the invasion book, which means they're probably not going to change that much. If I would have played ogres or something else, like, well, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So there's that. The second thing is I don't have to go to my wife and say, I need to buy a whole new army. Like, I already have the army. It's all boxed up, shrink wrapped down below. I have been hoarding many armies, including halflings, for a long time. And so other than the equal opportunity Dracons, I get to I think everything else I already have. I have aeronauts, but I'm not putting those together.
Brilliant.
I'm not doing that. I'm not a crazy person, Matt. I will 3D print those. I'll have those 3D printed. I will not be doing things like that. But what about you, Matt? I know you must have like loads of stuff going, right? Juices are flowing coming out of Clash.
Absolutely. Well, I've started on my Trident Realms basis. But one of the things that stops me going back to armies is having to revisit the basing. So I sat down and I was like, what's the likelihood of having a couple of everything? So I've printed bits of coral and everything for about 40 bases. I think so. I'm just going to go nuts on getting all the bases ready first. So, which they're almost ready to slap some paint on, actually. So that's that. So because I got most of my deliveries, I've done another order because I wanted to buy a thing like a coral giant, pardon me, and things. My Zerkali stuff's arrived too, so I've got that. I'm delaying the Zerkali because so many people are building at the moment. We had 3 loonies at Clash who managed to paint up Zircali in a month before the event. So, there's a few Zircali coming around. So I thought, well, I'll start with the Trident Realms and delay the rest. Only building a maximum of 2 hordes of depth horrors, because I'm not disgusting. And then I've rebased a couple of characters recently for people that were using various armies at Clash. So yeah, it's all a go for me. Jeremy, what's the plan? Have you started some hobby for this year, or?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking of doing, and it's sort of, as you've heard with the episode with Alex, in the spirit of part of the Slow Grow League is trying to think about how do we make the game approachable not only for new players rules wise, right? Some of the game design elements of Fourth, right? How do we make the game approachable for new players? But also trying to think about how do we make the hobby approachable for new players too? And with the Slow Grow Challenge being something that is for everyone, and in the Mantic side, they have some people who have experience doing slow grow or painting miniatures, some new people. And we had been talking about this on the show about, I think, my need to experiment with thinking about, Rob put it well, income versus outcome, which is input versus output, right? Thinking about what can I do that's faster, that comes out with a product that's still pretty good. And for my Northern Alliance, I don't want to have it mismatched between super high, my best painted stuff, and faster stuff. So picking my army for the Slow Go Challenge and imagining it as something with basing as good as I can do, because that's quicker, right? I can do high level basing, and it's faster than high level painting. Like high level basing, and then do like speed paint plus for the model. So some slap chop, some speed paint with some line highlighting to pick out some details, and look at it that way to try to show people there's enough cool products and stuff out there in the world that you can get a really solid tabletop, nice looking army with using some of these techniques. So in that, I was kind of listening to what Rob was saying about, for that, picking one of the armies in the book. And in our neck of the woods, everyone's frog crazy, right? As you've heard up in this point, and there isn't a lot of people I've seen doing Zircali, so that's actually what I'm thinking of doing, is doing Zircali. So I've started looking around on my mini factory for basing materials, because that's where I always start. What do I want the basing to be? So I'm thinking I could go if I wanted to go just Far East, generic Asian, where I have some Japanese, some Chinese, some Mongol, I think that's okay, right? This is a fantasy world, right? If I want to pick just elements that sort of have that Asian flair, but not be like, it's got to be all Chinese or all Japanese, so I'm kind of, I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, since it's a Far East army. I don't necessarily have to be accurate to like our separation of Far East cultures. I could pick just what I think looks cool.
It's not our world, right? It's Panathor. So
I think the good thing about Zircali is because they're invading, you can do whatever the hell you want. I'm thinking of doing like desert, and so they're invading Ophidia or something,
Yeah, and I may take it that way. I may take it to where I do something completely, not at all related to that. Maybe I just start looking for pieces of terrain, and I'm like, oh, this looks cool.
Jeremy, 4 different groups for the broken out, 400 or 500 piece units. Each unit has a different basing type on a different part of Panathor.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool. Like have one section have a bunch of dwarf ruins because they're invading the dwarves in that little section. And then one section could have elf stuff or, so lots of cool ideas there. I'm sort of exploring. I'm curious, and I wanted to pick your brain, Matt. I was thinking about this as I was like looking through stuff. When you got your Zircali stuff, did you get like the one-click ultimate bundle off the website, or what did you buy when you bought? Because I'm trying to figure out what I should get first, because I haven't actually bought any of the miniatures yet. I've been kind of snooping.
Yeah, I effectively got it, the one-click buy, but through our local supply, because he was giving us a good deal with price support and stuff. It ended up being a bit more of a discount. So I just looked up at basically everything is there. So I missed out on the model that they were including is that the Prowler model.
Yeah.
But effectively the one-click buy. Yeah. I think the one-click buy truly is pretty much a one-click buy unless you're into spamming units. Like you get pretty much a couple of units of everything.
Well, that's what it looks like. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about. So then I can just focus from speed from the very beginning. So I'm still looking around, but I'm thinking that that's going to be my slow go army, and then kind of I think what I'm going to do. So pretty excited about that.
How cost effective are you finding printing versus the stuff you purchased in the past for your Twilight?
I've mentioned this. Not only is it cheaper, but the quality is just like I said. I printed a bunch of stuff for my Northern Alliance Army at on a 0.4, but at like 0.0, whatever the highest quality that nozzle. And when it's primed, I cannot see any layer lines unless I get like a freaking microscope and go super deep. So to me, printed at a high level on a modern filament printer for terrain, you can't. Looks like resin. I mean, there was maybe some smaller pieces that didn't quite have as crispness, but just your basic, even for like basing terrain, which I want to look a little nicer than tabletop terrain. I'm just in love. I've been 3D printing up the wazoo. Like I have all my filaments and all my colors, and it's just
You've
it
probably
is so.
printed
I didn't
more,
think.
bought the printer and everything for less than what you paid for your last bits.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't think I'd love it so much. I'm printing all this stuff for my board games. I printed a thing to hold my sunglasses. You know, just whatever you can think of. I've printed things for it. And what I love about the bamboo, which is why I'm glad it is what it says on the box. It is you want a 3D printer to work out of the box with little to no tweaking. I've had to tweak a thing here or there, but outside of that, and the things I've had to tweak is it has some AI functionality through its camera around auto stopping failed prints. And one of the settings was too sensitive and it was wanting to stop my prints. But I just lowered the sensitivity and I cleaned the camera lens with a little lint-free cloth. And I've now had 18, 19, 20-hour prints that go off without a hitch. The technology of 3D printing to me is just like, that was always my fear, that I'd open it up and it would take me 3 months to figure out how to use it before I could do anything. And that has not been my experience with the bamboo. So
mine's now buzzing, printing a thing from, I think it was Kickstarted a while ago. It's on My Manufactory now, the Painter's Fortress.
Ooh, I'm going to look that up right now. It's called the Painter's Fortress.
I've got a hobby room back now. I've put a desk and everything there. So I'm printing a bunch of things to assemble. It takes ages because you've got to print the parts one by one. But each part's somewhere between 2 to 4 hours. But it's super modular. So
ooh, this does look cool.
So I'm printing that up at the moment.
Quick question about that as I'm looking at it right now. They have the Painter's Fortress Volume 2.
I think that's the one I'm doing. Basically the one that's, I can't remember how much money it was, but that gets you the base things. It doesn't get you any of the face plates or things to...
Oh, the themes. It looks like there's themes for it that you can do.
They're like $3 US, you know.
Okay. Oh, to buy if you want. Like I'm looking at, there's like a Lego theme, an Orcs theme.
So they're basically plates that you magnetize onto the front and sides of the fortress to make it just look a bit different.
Oh, dude, and I already have like a nice setup, but I love, this looks cool.
All right, well, Rob, let's roll into feedback and engagement with the cast. What have we had in the last couple of months since we last did it?
Yeah, we haven't chatted in a while, so we did have a couple comments that came in via Spotify. Bill Richardson said, "I'm so glad I stayed till the end to hear Matt's halt sign off. It's a winner." So we must be talking about the fun we've been having with Reform, Wraparound, everything that's not countercharge. And then Dan McCauley says, "Thanks for some epic Warpath content. In 2026, I'm attending Adepticon for the first time, and I'm excited for the epic Warpath and Firefight events." Yeah, I think the sci-fi stuff offerings are going to be huge, especially Halo. I think Halo is, looking at the schedule, it's quite something. And we also took some time at the end of the year to look at how we were engaging the audience, in that discussion and getting your feedback. And the conclusion we came to is that we were obviously trying to hit too many different forums: Discord, Facebook. And so ultimately, we're going to just pull back a little bit. We'll be on the forum and we'll be on Facebook, and that's it going forward. So it's just one of those things, Matt. There's too many ways, social media with everything. There's just too many ways to interact. It's like,
it's too life consuming.
Yeah, it is. And people might not know this about me. I do not use social media at all, except for the podcast. The only reason it's the only reason I'm on Facebook, right? I don't use Twitter. I don't use any social media. And so, and you know why I don't do that? Because what you just said, Matt. I'd rather have time to hang out with my family and play games and, paint models, preferably. So, so let's take a quick commercial break, and on the other side, we'll jump into the Mantic news.
I'm Dylan Scribner, the voice of the South, and you're listening to Countercharge.
And welcome back. And first up, you will have heard our interview with Alex by now. Dread Bull All-Stars is coming to Kickstarter, which has also been in the emails going out from Mantic. And you should have found out about their All-Star rider for Dread Bull All-Stars. So Dread Bull All-Stars is not version 2 Dread Bull. It is a completely standalone game. And boy, how about the name on the rider for that, Rob and Jeremy? Can you get bigger?
When you think about Dreadball and where it's placed in the context of the gaming landscape, it is a fantasy sports game. And when you say fantasy sports game, what do you guys immediately think about?
Blood Bowl, right?
Blood Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So why not go get the creator of Blood Bowl to put a new spin on Dreadball? So that's what they've done. They've gotten Jervis Johnson, they have Alicio Cavator, and they're going to have artwork by Stephen Koplinski, which I'm pretty sure he's actually already done some artwork for Mantic in the past. And it's an all-star cast. I do wonder, we're recording this before this thing goes live on Kickstarter. I am really curious to see how the non-Mantic crowd, the people that maybe the Blood Bowl players, take the news, because it's got to pique some interest, right? Definitely get some people to say, hey, what is this Dreadball thing? Right? What, you got Jervis involved? What's going on here? So I'm excited about the potential there. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
I think that's a name that's going to draw eyeballs. I think when that name gets out that Jervis Johnson is working on a sports game, surely that is going to bring eyeballs. I'm going to be very interested on what this Kickstarter does. What are your thoughts, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think the same thing. And, I think that anything that can bring people into the Mantic ecosphere, whether it's the new players we've got through Halo or a new sports game, whether it's Blood Bowl players or refugees from Guild Ball or anyone who loved that style of game, I think is inherently good for Kings of War, because that's sort of where my mind goes. How is this going to affect Kings? Is my favorite Mantic game. And I think it helps. I think Kings is part of the real backbone DNA of the company. So as the company does well, so shall Kings of War get support. And in general, too, I think we really need to take a moment and look at Mantic, who maybe in the past would have done this game designed by the Dreadball rules committee or someone in-house or whatever. I think we're going to see long-term effects of Alessio joining them, both in his connections to other game designers and this concept of let's sort of retake ownership of our games and let's do what Mantic does best, which is rules, easy to play, hard to master rules, and let's let our communities help with play testing and all that stuff. So I just love the investment. That's a huge name in the gaming world, right? So
you know what I'm ready for now, though, guys? Ronnie, when you're listening to this, let's take it further. Let's go find a way to get the Perry twins to sculpt us a Kingdoms of Men army. Can we make that happen, please? Pulling on all the strings, all the relationships you've had over the years, surely you can get them. They can put their own business aside for a few months. Right? Mm-hmm. Come on.
I'm still waiting for my mercenary, as I just say this, Brotherhood. Is Brotherhood gone in 4th edition?
Technically, Order of the Green Lady is still there. The Order of the Brother Mark is gone.
But I would still love to see the mercenary. You know how they talked about those through the years, right? That after the Abyss, the Brotherhood become like the A-team. They're like the mercenary knights. So I would love to see like a full-on crusading knight army or something. But, oh yeah, I can't wait to see what Mantic has in store. As we all know, one of the books it is coming up is titled Arrogance. And I know Ronnie already did some maybe at Clash, right? Matt, he was maybe saying who's going to be in that book, and that's some sculpts I can't wait to see.
First army of book 3 is an army, people have been waiting for. That content will be out, but, the arrogant elves are coming for Panathor. There's going to be plenty of excitement around that, I think.
What are you speculating? What units are going to be in hard plastic? Matt, I know you have some ideas.
Yeah, well, I wonder infantry based whether there's a opportunity for something like a triple fat sprue just with weapon swaps. So of various things, but then there's got to be a cavalry sprue. There's got to be, there's just an opportunity for some delicious plastic cavalry there.
Yeah, so if you had a infantry sprue, tall spears, archers, and maybe palace guard, and the one thing is just a weapon swap, right? To distinct between, and then Stormwind and Silveries. Go ahead.
And maybe they throw on some vault, some stuff to make some different heads or something to make glade stalkers. So that would be really interesting if they use like this one core elf box that can make a few different things. Support that box with the vault for some bits the vault, not after the fact, right? During the design, and this is just speculation, like during the design of the hard plastic, they also designed with that specific hard plastic kit in mind, vault add-ons, so that essentially with one hard plastic kit plus the vault, you can make any variation of elf infantry.
Well, it's kind of like the Salamanders, the Salamander block infantry unit, right? They use the same body and just everything else is an upgrade.
And then Dracons, right? They got to have Dracons.
You guys, here's what's going to happen. They're going to have an archery sprue, and it's going to make glade stalkers or your kindred archers. They're going to have an infantry sprue. It's going to make palace guard, maybe hunters of the wild. I don't know, just infantry. Then they're going to have a cavalry sprue. It's going to make Silver Breeze and Stormwind, and then you got to have Dracons. You know what? To be fair, these models have been, 2009, 2010? Been around a long time.
That's a lot of sprues. That's all in. That's all in on elves.
And also, I think there used to be that named elf character on a dragon, and the dragon is pretty old in the teeth, too. I wonder for their new hero or maybe a new model on a dragon, a new elf on a dragon or something could be cool.
Oh, yeah, because it's one of those old fat-ass dragons, isn't it?
And it's one of the old, bad, not great.
No, it's like a board game model from Dungeon Saga.
Yeah, so a new elf hero on a dragon or something like that could be pretty dope.
Yeah, but I mean, at that point, they're going to be backing some sales, aren't they? If they're doing that much. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It's like you said, Rob, it's long overdue. And I think we'd heard previously, right, that Kingdoms of Men is somewhere in the pipeline. Where that is in the pipeline, but that and Elves are two big releases at certain points.
We probably, at this point, need to talk about the Vault and Companion and the pricing updates because nothing has drug out the ire from so few.
And I'm really interested to hear your guys' perspective since I'm new to printing. I haven't been signed up to the Vault, so I'm looking at doing it now that I'm 3D printing. And maybe you can just help me as a layman person explain to me what's going on that has everyone's knickers in a pinch. I can't quite wrap my head around it.
I think part of it is that people just didn't wait for all the information. And, that's Manty's fault. They didn't get the information out timely, consistently in a package that people could understand. What happens when you don't have perfect information or all the information? Well, you jump to conclusions and so now, Matt, I mean, I know you spoke to Ronnie about this. Maybe you want to chime in here.
Yeah, so I mean, I think basically what happened is there was going to be an email out of this price rise information. Ronnie got it when he was on the plane, rewrote it, forgot some things like the annual subscriptions, and so the email got pushed out. Probably wasn't worded as logically as it could be, and then there started this furor on the internet over price rises and things like that. I mean, some of the posts were frankly just ludicrous, like basically, effectively, let's rise up kind of posts. And I'm like, come on, people saying, we were promised a lifetime price, which I cannot recall anything like that. The most I can maybe recall is promise of a lifetime discount for all-in early subscribers. But basically what's happened is there's actually no increase to the vault at all. The increase is coming from the companion, right?
Yeah.
But pretty much they've needed to increase their prices by about £1.50 for all subscribers. I think why that was also misconstrued is that they're taking the opportunity to rename their various tiers, and that just created more confusion. But the reality is there's a single companion, it's called Companion, which is basically one rule system, unlimited army lists. There's Club Mantic, which is all rule systems, unlimited army lists. And then there's the Fanatic, which includes your vault. But one of the other things that caused confusion is Ronnie forgot to include prices for annual subscriptions, because there are people on annuals and say that, well, if you're on an annual, you're not going to be converted until your anniversary date, and that wasn't clear. So I think that confused some people. But he confirmed, I think on the interview with myself, that annual's going away.
Yeah, it's just going to be monthly from now on.
Yeah, it's they're just streamlining. They're going to monthly. I say, do what suits your business. They're entitled to do that. They're certainly entitled to price rises.
And there is still going to be Mantic Vault only option, and that price is going to remain at £9.99. Now, those of us that had the early bird vault, it appears that they are honoring all those early bird commitments. And for me personally, I had an annual subscription to the companion all in. I had the early bird, or maybe it was called Founder. I can't remember, but that's almost £4, $3.99 vault subscription on a monthly basis. That's going to be rolled into what is now the Fanatics, which is supposed to be £15, but because I have early bird access to that stuff, it's like $11.50 or something. So essentially, all said and done, it's all confusing. Here's what it is. No one's prices are going up by more than £1.50.
So in the end, there's a lot of hubbub over, to me, sounds like the change in your couch that you find at the end of the day. And, you can't still get a Coca-Cola for 5 cents today. You got to pay the regular. So it seems like a lot of people are practicing their second favorite hobby of being upset about miniature wargaming than it does a real issue. Maybe they could have explained it better.
It's a fair criticism that they didn't release the information well, and it took several iterations to get the message out. For me personally, whatever, it's a £1.50 more a month. The one thing that we should mention is the big thing here is that they are kind of consolidating. No more annuals, right? You're going to go to monthly, but then you're also you're really tying companion and vault.
I would probably argue that because of the effort you put into your painting currently, unless you find a new speedway that you're happy with, maybe the vault isn't great value for you if you're not just going to print lots of random stuff and things like that. And the whole point of their new web store is that you're meant to be able to buy 1 or 2 packs at a time. So that's probably a better option for you.
Okay, makes sense.
Having said that, if you're willing just to, throw away a few extra bucks because you're doing the all-in companion anyway and you want to go all in the vault, like it's a pretty cheap upgrade that gives you access to, lots of Mantic stuff in the future, because the reality is it's likely that all of the stuff that they produce in resin from now on will still make its way to the vault at one point or another. It's just a matter of when.
We don't live in bubbles, right? We all know how much inflation costs. Everything is going up in price. So, $1.50 a month. I keep saying dollar. £1.50 a month. I don't know. That's, what is that, like $2, $2.40? I don't know. It's not very much.
And I do understand that cost of living's a thing for people, but, that doesn't preclude a company from being allowed to try and turn a profit.
I did sit down and break it down and was like, well, I don't really play that many other non-Mantic games. Maybe it would make more sense for me just to stick with just the one game. But the cost increase just to add the extra games, it wasn't that significant. So it just makes, and also the fact that I already have all the early bird specials, and that does impact it, right? So instead of paying, I think, £15 a month for everything, I'm paying $11.50 or something. So at the end of the day, this is first world problems, right? Like, if you don't use this stuff, then you have to reevaluate and go, maybe this isn't for me. And that's okay. And I guess, one of the things I do like, and not enough people have talked about this, when you buy an annual subscription, you've locked yourself in for 12 months. You've paid for 12 months. On a per monthly basis, you're going to pay a little bit more. You have the option to quit. Like, if you're 3 or 4 months in and you're taking a break, stop your subscription, right? That's fine. Just like every other subscription we have. Netflix, and I'm just thinking of all the streaming services, so.
No, yeah. I'm a subscription king, I'll tell you that.
You just pissed me off. The whole point of all these streaming services were like, well, we should be able to a la carte, right? With cable systems. It's ridiculous. We're worse than we were with cable. I'm paying more money than I was with cable. That pisses me off.
Because you have a subscription to everything, and each one's only $8.
Can't find a damn thing. Like last night, I said to my daughter, I said, look, I want to watch a superhero, anime, cartoon. And I said, I think Batman has one where he crossed over with Ninja Turtles. Let's find it.
You got to Google which streaming service is this show on.
Yes! And then do I have that one? Because there's like 15 streaming services now. Do I actually have that streaming service?
And then bloody HBO comes and pulls all their content to their own.
HBO Max is way different for you guys.
No, but HBO used to be rolled in with other stuff, right? But then all of these companies now go, oh no, we'll take our own content to our own streaming platform first to squeeze the money there before they release it to it, before they sell it to another.
It's ridiculous. Now, all right, you guys got me fired up.
Yeah, well, let's keep going with Vault News, shall we?
I want to shout out to Clive Stone. The guy's been running the Mantic Vault. Nick Holder has done this a couple times where he has taken a Mantic STL file, changed it up, made something cool, or made a different option. Like I think he did it with, we talked about him a couple months ago, where he did it with Snow Trolls, where he took the guy and changed his arms so they're not all fist on a rock, right? Now he's one-upped himself by going in and changing the ice elementals just in time for Jeremy to have finished all his ice elementals. But now you've got 3 poses, and he posted it on Mantic Vaults Fanatics, and Clive was like, yeah, let's add them to the vault. So now they're on the vault. That's just cool, right? I mean, Luke Schaefer's another one. Does great work with crazy mixing and matching of Mantic files, right? That's cool. And you know what? Somebody else shouted out on the Mantic Vault Fanatics page, which I also want to amplify that message, which is, hey guys, let's get some people that put, like, when you have a multi-part model, put it together for us. Not all of them are available completely assembled. I want them all assembled, guys.
Oh, that's interesting, because I've got pretty much all of those, because the way they split them up, often that's what I do.
Oh, you have special software probably. You're too fancy for me. I don't have that. I don't have any special software to do that.
Yeah, it's just a free version, but they often align, and then you just hit export. For a lot of them, depends if they're a multi-kit model. Yeah, I mean, I could send those to them. I mean, to be honest, I don't understand why we don't get all the time a complete and then a split. It just makes no sense to me.
Let's channel our inner Jeremy. Let's be optimistic. And let's say this extra money that they're going to be getting will provide them the financial backing to make the changes needed, to give you what you want, man. That's what I think.
That's it.
This month is pretty good too, Matt.
This month's pretty good, and particularly, I'm assuming, timed with the Invasion book. There's a little bit of Halfling Juju in there for everyone's favourite Edge Grenadiers.
I love the basing elements too. I don't know, is that sci-fi or what is that?
Bit sci-fi, part jungly. Sci-fi jungle. So yeah, you got the Edge Grenadiers. You got a winged muster captain, which is a great model. I love that model. And then you've got some sci-fi stuff. Jeremy, do you know what the big mech unit is?
It's a Strider, but I'm not sure the loadout, which loadout
the chainsaw and the flame gun. I don't know. There's that one. There's another one with a big burst rifle. I think there's 3 different versions. So
I do.
It
like
won't surprise me if all the options are there. They just showed the one assembled model.
The guy on the winged airless, that's a cool model.
Those are what are those guys in the clouds? Those are the ones that made a big hubbub at Adepticon a couple years ago, right? Those Marauders from Firefight?
So those are called
Skyscrapers?
Yeah, Skyscrapers.
How does the guy that doesn't play Firefight know this? Come on, Jeremy. Jeremy, you disappoint me, sir.
There's the reason why I don't play Firefight. After Travis Tim touched me in the no-no spot on the doll with those models, and I blacked out Firefight since then.
Yeah. The no-no spot.
They touched me in the no-no spot on the dolly.
On that note, let's take another commercial break, and on the side, we'll get into the topic of the month.
This is Alex from Mantic, and you're listening to Countercharge.
Welcome back to Countercharge and topic of the month. We didn't announce it as a topic of the month, but it was a stealth topic of the month. We said, hey guys, what are your resolutions for 2026? And I actually think we said gaming resolutions, didn't we, Matt? I think we specified.
Yeah, it was gaming resolutions. Yeah. Yes, so Jeremy let us off with, not be such a loser and paint more. But, Jeremy's never a loser. So Jeremy, you're just looking to get on that paint train.
Yeah, I just got to do it. I got to do it this year. This year's got to be the year where I get some stuff done.
Yeah, and I love Brenton's reply to you there is, I plan to paint more, but can't make any commitments to not being a loser. Next up, we had Matthias Lebrink, demo Kings of War and Champions at my local gaming store to recruit more Swedish players.
Robert Zimmermans wants to do a Trident Realm army of 3,000 points. Sean Vilmont, he wants to magnetize all his bases. He's working on rebasing his old orcs into troop size units for more options. Continue painting newer models with the new speed paints. Wants to focus on getting some serious work done on a second army, either halfling gunline or EOD. So a bunch of stuff on the plate for Sean.
And Raymond's got finish up the ogre army I'm currently painting and get at least one other army painted by the end of the year. Alistair says finish projects I start and not get distracted by shiny new armies. I also probably will get distracted from them too. Matt Ryan says mo paint, no complaint. That's one of my local guys. I love Matt. He's just, no one takes a beating like Matt. He doesn't care. He's like, whatever, I'm just here to have fun. Max K says balance, hobby, work, and family life. Max, I feel you. That's what I'm in right now. I'm in that, like, when do I have time to do anything?
Although I think Max has a new hobby too of trolling people on the internet. I've been enjoying.
I love it. I love it.
Max's comments.
I'm starting to appreciate Australians more. Not all of them are subtle. Luke's not subtle, but most of them are most of you guys are very subtle. And, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'll read something in passing and it won't even dawn on me. You guys are trolling. Like, I'm like, oh, wait, that's okay. That's sarcasm, okay? Or whatever, right? So,
because that's the art of the Aussie joke, right? It's got to be so dry. And it's like with nicknames, it'll be, something like you call a guy Clock and you don't realize it until you realize he's got one little arm and one big arm. So Jesse Garrett, find a list I enjoy for 4th edition that is powerful and isn't spam. Yeah, good luck. Josh Rosado, paint my Basilia TM army, add to my Necron army, and attend 3 GTs this year.
We got Josh LaFoon, make a positive impact on the game and community. Oh man, that's like a Jeremy goal right there. Finish 15 new Kings units, build a new Halo Flashpoint board, and keep my game space cleaned up. All good goals. David Musgrave, pay 3,000 points or so of Abyssal Dwarves. In 2026, finish painting Corsairs that I've been putting off for 18 months as I hate them. More Kingdoms of Men stuff, rebase heroes for various armies. Oh yeah, that's a good thing. If you're kind of unsure where to start off on your 4th, maybe if you have some heroes that, do some cool basing for heroes and then actually play some games.
And Dan says, try to make 2 grand tournaments. Scott Bradley says, finish my new Twilight Kin army for 4th.
Adrian Scott, paint more dwarves. Wow, big surprise there, Adrian. Refurbish my Forces of the Abyss. I didn't even know he had one. Paint some dwarves, expend my Plague Army for Firefight, and paint a bunch more dwarves.
He's going to paint all the dwarves in Panathor.
Robert Lee, I've been fairly active hobbying. I'm working on updating units for 4th.
Andrew Hawley, we have crush my enemies, see them driven before me, and hear the lamentations of their women/men. I like the inclusivity. Finish redoing my orc army. George O'Connell, remember it's just a game and have as much fun as possible.
Scott Sallee, start a new army for the new year and a new edition. Probably won't be halflings, though, because Scott's already got 1 million halflings, I think. Then we have Ian Kane says, finish off my samurai, paint up some marauders, and perhaps a new armada fleet. Mark Lichlord to finish my salamanders and to get back on the podcast. By the way, if you're not going to paint the official salamander models, Mark's kicking ass with some GW sculpts. They're pretty great.
Kevin Cook, field a 2,500 point undead army, fully painted at my local gaming store. Go to Adepticon, not so much to participate, but see all the countercharge folks and meet some of the people featured on here. William Cleveland, get back to playing Cow and be at least 50-50. One of those is pretty unlikely, though.
So next up we have Reddick Bry. Guys, he just says, get good. This was done 4 weeks ago. Is he channeling something? Did he know something was coming? That he was going to finish second at the UK Masters?
I tell you, Did you realise that if it's last round, they let someone play each other again?
I think in the UK they do that often. That's just, it's crazy. I would never do that in the US.
That's no longer Swiss.
That seemed odd to me.
Tristan Gowers says, take my time painting an entire army, not just half of it. Nick Holder says, play some narrative scenarios in Kings of War 4th edition, stuff like in Destiny Kings. And Nick, we need more of your STL creativity.
Robert Zimmerman says, going to work on his Trident Realm army of 3,000 points. Christian Moisan, buy more games that nobody will play. Oh, valiant effort. Your buddy Andy Patton says not to lose to what? How do you pronounce this name, Rob?
So it's Bob Stopbein. Yeah, he's the guy from Wisconsin that seems to keep kicking his butt every time he turns. And he's got Matthew Schneckner says getting to the next Carolina Cryptid GT to the full 32 player limit. Pete Jones says get back into Kings of War. And Erasmus Berger. I don't know why I want to say it like that. It just makes it sound cool. Not buy any new miniatures this year. It's a crazy person to think he's going to be able to do that. Maybe he's got better self-control than I do. Paint my Asterians and get to my terrain projects.
And then finally, Peter McHugh says, shake off my decade-long painting funk and actually assemble and paint at least one 2K army for Kings of War. Well, thanks for your contributions, guys. Now, before we get on to what we might do as our next show topic, what we haven't touched on is whether we've started our hobby commitments for 2026. And Rob's kindly, as always, taken the opportunity in our show notes to remind us of what they were.
Well, for those that have commitments.
Yeah, for that.
the perfect, I needed to get a screen capture of that. That was the perfect, just like channel is like, Serenity Now.
Wasn't it Jeremy in our year in review had written all these notes and then I just typed the best commitment is no commitment.
Exactly.
So mine were, 500 more points for halflings and sallies. I've actually printed all that. And then the two new armies for the year, Zerkali and Trident Realms, well, they're here. A whole bunch of the Trident Realms is assembled, actually, but I want to do the bases first. So I have kickstarted it, yeah.
How good are those plastic bases that they come with? I really think they're cool.
That have the little things so that you can lock them together.
Jeremy's giving us a look. He doesn't know. Now I have hard injection molded plastic bases.
They've got some detail on them to multi-base, but then underneath, recessed sections with little connectors so you can join them together to make bigger versions of the base.
That's cool.
They're awesome. You snap together. You can make different sizes. And they're not even permanent. You can put little pegs in to lock them together.
Probably in the scheme of things, didn't cost them that much more to do, right? So, yeah, I think that was great. What about yourself, Rob? Have you started off your 2026 commitments?
250 points for Armada. I decided to do an elf fleet. They're all built. They're primed. They're actually base coated. They're washed. Now I still have to do the sales and stuff. Making some progress there. The 2,000 points of GCPS, they're still assembled and based. But that was like 2 years ago. 1,500 points to add to my existing Goblins army. Yeah, I've been building mincer mobs like crazy. One of the things I don't really know yet is Goblins are so hard to figure out. I just don't know what I want to do with those guys. So, I mean, I'm going to add the obvious things like giants that I don't have a lot of, slashers and mincer mobs. But then after that, I got to figure out, like, do I add more infantry? I already have a crap ton of infantry. So I need to figure that out. And then I want to build 2,500 points of halflings, like I think I mentioned. Right now, the hobby is really getting the boxes out, opening them up. And one of the things I'm trying to work through is I want to magnetize the shooting backpacks so I can run them as regular forest trolls, or I can run them with the shooting option. So, and I'm thinking I'm going to do a couple hordes of them. Well, they're not hordes anymore. They're called regiments. Guys, one of the things that's interesting is I have to really figure out, in the past, when I did ogres, I based them all on what was then regiments, which is now a troop. Do I want to do that again? Or do I actually want to get my head out of my ass and actually make a commitment and actually just do what's now a regiment, which used to be a horde? So that's what I got to figure out. I think I have to go with a bigger size, mainly because if I'm going to have any kind of architectural details, and honestly, Matt, we always talked about a handle on a base. Well, now that you mark the center point of the unit for purposes of like determining if you're in cover and stuff, it might make sense to have something that's in the very center of the unit that rises above, some kind of, maybe it's an apple tree. I don't know. I need to nail that down. But long story short, I'm actually doing more today than I was in December. So it's a start. But yeah, Jeremy, regale us. Well, actually, Jeremy has a lot to talk about. It's just not this. He has been printing like a crazy person. His printer is going brr, brr, brr.
Basically, yeah. I've been really enjoying my 3D printer. It's exactly what I would hoped for it to be, which is I've only had to mess with settings and stuff a little bit. So I've been printing a lot of board game stuff, printing terrain stuff. Now that I'm going to be working on the slow grow, I'm going to be on my mini factory looking at what terrain stuff I want to do that. And I may or may not have already bought the Painter's Fortress STLs while on this call. So I need to start working on that as well because I'm a crazy person. I got my bases started for my Hearthguard for my Northern Alliance. So I have been doing some stuff, really, really been enjoying the 3D printer, but I'm actually pretty excited. I know it seems crazy to start a new project considering how long I've been working on my Northern Alliance, but often in the hobby, you have to follow where the motivation takes you. You got to ride that train when you're feeling motivation. So this idea of doing the slow grow, but doing it speed, trying to see how far can I push speed paints and speed processes in combination with good looking basing to get something on the tabletop quicker. So that's actually what I'm really excited about. I need to think about what I want to get started and decide on if I'm going to be sticking with the Zerkali, if that's going to be where I'm going to go. So, but yeah, I'm excited. Been really enjoying painting and, so, but yeah. So basically that's a whole lot to say that I haven't really done much, but it feels like I've been doing a lot, which is my normal life. So.
And let's jump in and talk a little bit about what's been going on with the podcast. You guys have heard we've had a lot of content of a lot of 4th edition coverage. We've had some new players on to tell us what they think about 3.5 near the end and their thoughts of moving into 4th. We've had some coverage with Mantic, right? We had Alex Gordon on to join us. It was great. Obviously, Matt had a bunch of great coverage out of Clash of Keys Australia. I think what you're going to see going forward is more of that. At this point, it's still too early to be busting out army reviews because we just don't know, right? We just don't know. Now, we might be able to do some speed reviews maybe, like where we spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes on each army and just give initial thoughts maybe. But, an actual in-depth army review, who knows? I mean, we just don't have I don't think anybody yet has played enough games to really be able to comprehensively speak about it.
It'd still all be a bit too theory hammer, wouldn't it? We spoke about this a couple of times on the Clash podcast of how different the game is to now, particularly planning for combat. And I can guarantee you that like the 50 or so people in that room, they'll be playing the game a lot differently in 12 months in terms of how they approach combats.
Yeah, and I think the List Builder Studios will come back. And I think at first, before we go back to the traditional questions in that format, I think it'd be interesting to have people just share how different their list building process has changed given the new unlock structure, right? Like maybe you used to think about list building a certain way, but this new structure makes you to prioritize things differently. So, and some of the questions that I still have when I'm playing 4th is, do I want regiments or do I want hordes? Surely maybe the answer is a little bit of both, but do you want to have more scoring units, which is what you would get if you had more regiments, or do you want more hordes where you're paying for unit strength at a discount, right? So, and that's a question that army specific. I have no answer yet. I mean, I'm still early days playing mostly goblins right now, and So, if you guys have any suggestions for topics, though, please by all means let us know. We definitely could use some feedback.
All right. Well, let's talk about our topic for what will be our March Fireside. Let's do what army are you starting this year and why? And that'll be in line with the slow grow for us. We'll be supporting the slow grow for Mantic. So tell us what army you're picking and why you're picking it. So if that includes a bit of a story or theme, let us know about it, and we'll talk about it on the next show.
Yeah, let's recap ours though, right? So I'm picking halflings, and the reason why I'm picking them is because they're in the invasion book, and I already have all the models. Jeremy is picking Zerkali because
Same thing, new models in the book. It's the most fresh, up-to-date army line, so that makes sense to try to show off as much of the new Mantic stuff as possible.
I'm doing Trident Realms. So I wanted to do Trident Realms for a long time. So I actually had a Mega Army box from about 12 months ago. So that was good to be a good starting point. And then, like you say, Rob, new book, they're updated now. So good opportunity to do them.
Now we should get in a host that wants to play Salamanders, and we could have the whole book covered.
I tell you what, my Salamander army is getting big. Is yours big, Rob?
I don't have any of the new stuff. So, Mike, I placed an order to have a bunch of stuff printed. So all the new stuff, all the cavalry and the Krakatoa, all that stuff, I will be adding it to it at some point. I don't know, with everything else I've committed to, it might not be the first thing. I originally was going to do it for Blue Sea Brawl, but I'm in the queue to get that printed, and work has been crazy. So I'm not going to have time in a month to paint 500 points worth of stuff. So we're not going to have those cool Blue Sea Brawl episodes, really. It'll be more about getting together and figuring out, well, what can we do with the existing armies we have? The Hobby Mojo is really going to flow into the slow grow. Because I'm super excited about the slow grow. The fact that Mantic's officially running it, I think, is an awesome thing. It's good. When we do it, it's fine, but we don't have the reach that Mantic has. If there's 1,600 people on our Facebook page and we get like 50, 60 people involved in the slow grow, it's not the same. They're gonna get hundreds and hundreds of people involved in this. And I'm ready for a international onslaught of hobby creativity.
Tell you what I was thinking we should do. You know how Ronnie's got a bard, Kyle's got him in it. I need to convince Mantic to sculpt us, the podcasters of Panathor.
Oh, that would be awesome.
The only question is, what race would we be in? Maybe that's something we have to open up to the audience.
Well, yeah, if you were to make Rob
be a vampire before for being up late and up early and never asleep. So, and I'm very, very pale.
That should be a good question to the audience. If Rob, Matt, and I were going to be characters in Panathor, what race would we be? What army? What hero would we be? Or what unit would we be from?
That's going to get some interesting answers. That's almost a topic of the month. We can have two. If the answers are good enough, it might need its own show.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up there. We got anything to add, Jeremy?
No, just I'm excited to see what people get into and all their new projects. So excited to hear how great Clash went in Australia. And it's just cool. We're coming out of winter here. It's now February, getting into spring. So it's time now to get outside of our caves and back into the world of gaming. So excited for it.
Time to let your hobby bloom. All right. Well, on that hopeful note, let's leave it there. Thanks for listening. And until next time, keep countercharging.
Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.
Exactly.
Spring is coming. Well, actually, it's already. You guys, I forget. You guys are opposite, right?
Yeah. Still coming. That's all right.
You know what?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the metaphor that our master should put out there. It's always spring somewhere.
All right. Well, on that hopeful note, let's leave it there. Thanks for listening. And until next time, keep countercharging.